and welcome to the VooPlayer Q&A weekly webinar call. We're going to get started here in just a moment, but before we do, if you'll be kind enough to confirm that you can both hear my voice as well as see my screen, and then we can get started. Thank you very much. Alrighty, we're getting some confirmations. Hello to Stephen, hello to Naleen, hello Jig, William, hello everyone. Hello everyone once again. My name is Peter. I am, even though I might say that I'm William, just logged into the wrong account. My name is Peter, and I'm VooPlayer's product manager. We're holding these Q&A weekly webinar calls in order to answer any questions that you as users may have. Of course, also to provide any training or elaborations on advanced use cases of video in your businesses and in your sales funnels and marketing efforts, etc. Also to gather feedback from you guys as users, feedback, constructive criticism, ideas, suggestions, improvements, etc., on how we can keep improving VooPlayer and how we can continue adding value to it, and also to showcase new stuff that we've been working on so that you're up to date on all the latest and greatest available features within VooPlayer. All right, so the format of the webinar is pretty straightforward. As you can, as I can see at least, you guys figured out how to use the chat box already. So at any time that you have a question, or if you came prepared with any questions, just feel free to drop that question or questions in the chat box, and we'll just answer them in the order that they come in. First question from Tim: are these recorded? Absolutely. So all of the webinar replays, if you are unable to attend any of these, are available both on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/c/VooPlayer, and I think there's a playlist somewhere. VooPlayer weekly Q&A webinar calls. So you're more than welcome to subscribe to this YouTube channel, and then you'll be notified every time a replay is posted, which is usually the day after the webinar is held. Also, if you haven't, VooPlayer Facebook groups VooPlayer is a great place to discuss everything VooPlayer, as well as also to share ideas and the use cases between users of VooPlayer and exchange ideas, etc. So Facebook group and the YouTube channel are a good place to stay up to date on everything. Also, if you're unable to attend the webinar but would like to have a question answered, then you can just contact us at any time at support@VooPlayer.com, or using the live chat widget on our site. Just say, hey, I have a question which I would like to have answered on the webinar, and then we can get into it in a lot of detail. All right, so that's it for the housekeeping notes, I believe, unless I missed something. I don't think I have. All right, so one thing that I did want to bring up, well, this is a few things, but in case you haven't seen yet, today, I believe, yep, today we released the release notes for November. Granted that since we didn't include the release notes for October either, this kind of covers 2 months, so November and October. And if you haven't seen these before, these include all of the new features which have added, all of the sort of fixes that we've been working on, as well as sort of what's next. So even though I've covered most of these on the previous webinars, I'll take some time just to go through them once more, just as a refresher course for what's been added in the last couple of months. So a week or two ago, we added VooPlayer reports, which you, as you may know, are sort of a centralized resource for all of your video performance. So in them, you can see basically on the filters that you assigned and the time period which you assign, you can see all of your video performance, and as well as save those reports and automate them so you can get that data via email, and you can have it be automatically generated as a Google Sheet, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one thing that we feel is a great enhancement, has been a great enhancement in these last couple of months that we've added. And we see a lot of people are already leveraging this quite extensively and are gathering a lot of value out of that. Also worth remembering, viewing notifications. So we've added a feature where you can be notified when somebody watches your video. You can be notified either via the email address integration, either by a webhook integration, or in your Google Analytics. So just a quick refresher there. I think that's in the video settings. So this is already working. So let me just full screen this Woopler video here. So yeah, you can turn it on from video settings, and then you can select which integration you want the notification to be sent to. So here, analytics are sent. So when somebody watches the video, then the Google Analytics gets notified and gets an event. And there it is. All right, so that's the viewing notifications, which were also released. A bunch of newly added third-party integrations. So we've started supporting ConvertFox, I think in early November, with the addition of support for lead capturing, so in email gates, SMS gates, etc. Also, vice versa, for getting the data from ConvertFox for personalization, and also for forwarding the video events there. So when a contact has viewed a video, as well as sort of how much of that video they've watched, etc., etc. So all of that is updated now in the ConvertFox integration. The custom webhook integration has also been added. I think for all the same features as ConvertFox, Google Analytics for lead capturing and video events, and the email address. Email address, not necessarily a third-party integration, but basically, if as some people do who have sort of small engagement, and you expect only a few people few very targeted people seeing your video, sometimes it makes sense to get all of those notifications and data sent directly to your email address. So that's why we've added the email address integration. Enhancements to the analytics on the video tracking. So aside from just getting the regular heat map that on its own is pretty powerful with the data for your viewers, you are now also able to see all of the interactions, displays, skips, pauses, etc. On the viewing activity. So you can see when a particular user has seen an animation. So this annotation, sorry, there was an annotation in this video. So from second 1 to second 5, they've seen it, and there was a second one which they've never seen. And let me just, I think, skip forward. I think there's an example with sort of clicking on those. So yeah, so here there's a mark at the point where user clicked on a particular annotation. So all of that is now also available inside of your insights. Some not so prominent but noteworthy additions in October. We've added an ability to play the video, play only one video on the page. So in case you have 2 or more Woopler videos embedded on your page and people are clicking from one to another, sometimes it makes sense to force pause all of the other playing videos. So that's now enabled, and you can find out how to accomplish this from this article. You can also forward query string parameters. So if somebody lands on your page, like mysite.com/mylandingpage, email equals, etc. Now you're able to pass those query string parameters into the Woopler link. So if the Woopler calls to actions are linking to another page, you're able to forward those query string parameters through. So that's great. As you may have or may have not noticed, we've introduced completely free but limited plan, as well as a startup subscription, which is aimed at people who are not quite enterprise but are striving towards some of those features and some of those consumption rate limits. So there's a startup plan, and you can find out more about them as well. Mobile playlist position, an option for the playlist to be positioned below the video rather than next to it. Updated webinar platform, which we are on currently, as well as a summary of all of the QA webinars for the past couple of months. So I'll take the liberty of grabbing this link and just pasting it here for your reference so that you have that available. All right, let's see. I don't see any questions thus far. So here's William. Pre-rolled videos can be added before pay to watch. I've never ran into that scenario before, and I don't think anybody has attempted that. I think William is the first person to maybe investigate this. So we have the pay to watch as well as a pre-roll video. I would honestly, I don't have an answer for you, William. I would really need to investigate that, but my gut feeling is saying no. I think the pay-per-view would come before the pre-roll, because I think the pay-per-view doesn't even wait for the video to start or load or anything. If there's a pay-per-view that's the lock, that's the first thing that immediately gets displayed over the video. So I think no, actually, sorry. The pay-per-view gate has a time. So actually, I think you're right. I think if a pre-roll video is added, that will come before the pay-per-view lock, because the pay-per-view lock can be set at a specific time. So then it needs to wait for the main video to start. So yes, a pre-roll video can be added before a pay-to-watch. You're correct, William. Stephen is saying, I sent a share link to 5 people for a video hosted by VooPlayer, and 2 reported it would play for a few seconds and stop. They would restart it and play stopped again shortly after, over and over. Have you ever heard of this? And is there a browser setting that causes it? That doesn't necessarily sound like a browser setting, but there's so many different factors which could impact this. The main one being sort of the bandwidth of those users and the connection, because what that sounds like basically is just the video buffering to load. So my questions to you, Stephen, would be really to describe where that video is hosted. Is it uploaded to us, or is it externally hosted? Then also which resolutions are uploaded, if they are uploaded, et cetera, et cetera. No offense, Stephen, but that's more of a support question rather than a webinar question. So I would implore you to just contact us at support@vooplayer.com and sort of describe that issue in detail. You can provide a link where the issue can be replicated, and then we can investigate it in detail from there. If you are able to on your own, as a viewer, you're able to watch that video, but somebody else is able only to watch a portion of the video and then the video stops, that's usually nothing to do with browser settings or anything that you may have. The video loaded, it's working, the player loaded, it's working, it started playing, so the video files are good. So at that point, I think there's not much to investigate there other than video speed, but we'll gladly take a look at it. Just be sure to contact us over at support@vooplayer.com, and then we can troubleshoot it from there onwards. Alrighty. Looking forward to any other questions. If anybody has any. What else did I want to mention? We're really looking forward to feedback. We've seen a lot of people using the reports feature, but we haven't gotten a lot of feedback from people requesting additional sort of filters or data that could be accompanied in this. So we're really, really looking forward to people sort of starting to tell us there's things which could be improved here, things that we would like to see, etc. So if you do have any feedback on the VooPlayer reports feature, we're more than eager to hear it out. Let's see. No other questions thus far? Alrighty. Are you guys moving forward with the access key? So good question. So might as well talk, if there are no questions, might as well sort of talk about the roadmap in general. So as we're winding down 2018, let me pull up the that ideas board. So sort of the only big item which was left. So global analytic reports, we completed that. So that kind of needs to be moved to recently launched. But performance of WooPlayer and video loading is sort of our remaining focus for 2018. So we're currently working heavily on optimizing the weight of WooPlayer files. There's a lot of, not to bog you down in details, but there's a lot of dependencies which are not necessarily all needed. So we're combing through everything and separating out what's needed and what's not, what's essential and what's not, what could be included dynamically if needed, et cetera, et cetera. So we're really breaking down everything into small parts and combing through it to make sure that we have sort of the most optimal player that we have, that we can have, and that's sort of our sole focus for the remainder of 2018. Now, as far as the plans for the beginning of 2019, so there's been a couple of big things there. There's the video access code management, which got a lot of traction, and also the team account management, which we kind of already started working on. So one of those two is definitely going to be worked on. So one way or another, the video access code management is definitely going to be worked on. It's just a matter of sort of prioritizing all of that and seeing how it's all going to play out. We haven't still put together a roadmap for 2019, but off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure this is going to fall in the beginning of 2019 as far as the roadmap is concerned. All right, great question. If anybody else has any questions, they're more than welcome. Also, if you're curious about things that you've suggested to WooPlayer and are curious if we're working on them, or have ideas for new features which are still not available in WooPlayer, we're more than welcoming those. So as you may or may not know, from within WooPlayer, if you're curious about that portal that I was just interacting with, you can just click over here on the documentation and support in the toolbar, and there's a submit and vote on ideas option in here, which is going to load all of this, so you're able to go through all of these different features that other WooPlayer users have suggested, and you can also submit a new idea on what you would like to be able to do, and describe how that would help you, so, and how important that is to you, so that we're able to, as I mentioned, facilitate those use cases in the future. Alrighty, no further questions. So we might actually be able to wrap this up a little bit early today. I hope to see you guys next week, hopefully with some more questions and use cases. As I mentioned, don't necessarily treat either support or these webinar calls as sort of troubleshooting, debugging sessions. We are really hoping to cover use cases that you have. So a question along the lines of, hey, I have a core online course that I want to sell, but I want to track my individual members and make sure that they're notified when there's a remainder of a video which they haven't seen, and et cetera, et cetera. So those are the use cases which I think benefit the most from these sessions. So next week, if you really want to bring your use cases to this session and describe them, or maybe even in advance, if you want to just email in and say, hey, I have this use case, and I'm just wondering if there's anything that a WooPlayer can additionally do for me to benefit out of it, for me to get the maximum value out of the player, we would be more than pleased to discuss that. So hopefully more of those use cases next week. Until then, I wish you a happy remainder of this week, and I want to thank you for joining this call. Bye, everyone.